The use of chemical and explosive materials by criminals and terrorist groups poses a significant threat in every country. In recent months, the world has seen resurgence in the use of chemical warfare agents and toxic industrial chemicals against military targets and civilian populations. Interpol's Chemical and Explosives Terrorism Prevention Unit supports the efforts of member countries by developing a training program that assists law enforcement crime scene examiners to identify the hazards present, to apply appropriate safety procedures for officers to work in highly dangerous crime scene environments, and to train local officers to produce a systematic, methodical approach to a scene to ensure best evidence is recovered.
As a customs officer, this course is very useful for us as one of our duty to protect the community. We have a lot of knowledge to increase our awareness about import or export the commodity that may harm our national security, such as chemical, biological, radioactive and nuclear material that can be misused by terrorists or unresponsible people to harm our national security.
The training uses presentations along with demonstrations and practical exercises, beginning with an introduction to the real threat assessment of the region, in order to better understand the type of substances relevant in that particular location. The objective is to develop the ability to formulate a multi-agency plan to deal with incidents involving chemical warfare agents and toxic industrial chemicals. Practical exercises include learning to recognize the signs of an imminent terrorist attack by building an awareness of the different types of CBRNE agents available to terrorists. One of the aims of the training is to raise capacity of officers with knowledge in crime scene management and forensics protocols to become competent in the most challenging of crimes, those which are contaminated with CBRNE materials.
During this practical exercise, we use simulants so they can identify what the chemicals that we are discussing physically look like. So we try and match up the simulants to exactly what the colour and the odour of the actual chemical themselves, so that when they enter a scene, they're better prepared on what it could possibly be.
Before this course, we didn't even know about phosphorus, cyanide, chlorine or other chemical things that it can be misused. So this knowledge I will share to another customs officer, especially at the border.
The key to a thorough, competent investigation is early identification and assessment of the situation, knowing how to respond to the incident in a methodical manner in order to locate and preserve evidence.
The students here are learning an aseptic technique of the collection of some powders, some liquids and swabs in a contaminated environment.
A lot of these people have never even used some of this equipment that we're showing them, so we try to show them the different techniques and how easy it is and how cheap it is to actually obtain this equipment as well.
Participants are then tasked to search a vehicle using various different types of search methods in order to preserve evidence.
We put various different evidence in that vehicle and we get them to work systematically, as we explained in the presentation, as a team and recover the evidence. It works fantastically well. And this is some of the first time that these officers have ever been exposed to this search methodology. And what we do is we go through a process where we say that if you follow this process, this will reduce the chance of you missing evidence from the scene.
Being able to identify the various types of hazards and risks in different crime scenes is another exercise that prepares officers to mitigate these hazards and risks.
This is a very, very important part of any crime scene. You should not allow any officer to go into a scene without some kind of form of assessment. Once you're in that scene, you've got a personal responsibility to yourself to make sure that you mitigate any risk to yourself or our fellow officers.
Local law enforcement communities, including police, fire services, hazmat teams, and other first responders, are also encouraged to present their coordinated roles and responsibilities, as well as present equipment that would be used in actual, real-life incidents. The process of donning and doffing personal protective equipment forms a crucial part of the training, as officers must understand the practical steps to avoid any contamination of themselves or others.
This is some of the first time they've ever even worn this equipment. We make sure that they dress with the appropriate personal protection equipment. We explain what the personal protection equipment will do with regards to their safety, and then we explain the process of putting it in. And we also show the process of taking the personal protection equipment off without contaminating the person bringing it off.
The course builds towards the final full-day practical, comprising 2 scenarios that involve various chemical and explosive materials. The training is meant to equip officers to safely process and manage a crime scene where chemicals and/or explosives have been identified using a multi-agency approach.
So what the participants will do, they will split into teams. There will be an operational commander, someone will be a photographer, someone will be a recorder, someone will be an evidence collector, and we explain about a clean and a dirty pair, so that when they go into the scene, there'll be a clean person who would help and assist the dirty person taking the actual samples. There will be a reconnaissance, so someone will go into this scenario at the start to make a reconnaissance so they can prioritise the evidence collection process. And we teach them about operational plans and sampling plans, so that what should they do and what process should they apply to try and get these samples. After reconnaissance, the person who does the reconnaissance will report back to the commander, and they will come up with an operational plan and how to deal with that crime scene during that period of time. And then the process starts about personal protection equipment. What personal protection equipment do they need? What equipment do they need to take samples which they're asking for? We try to encourage them to work as a team and to have an officer whose responsibility is just for the safety of the people within that scene as well. And then when they go into the scene or wearing appropriate personal protection equipment, they come out and they go through a decontamination process. This decontamination process is, like I say, vitally important, and it allows them to see what type of process will be in their own country and how long it takes. After that, they come back to the commander, and there's normally a debrief, and the commander will explain what they've found, and he would prioritise the next team going in and give them a list, a priority list on what exhibits that he would prefer to be collected in order.
We need practical and simulation, because by the practical we know what is really going on, what the participant can feel and experience, at least something similar with the real condition.